What is going on, everybody? Freedom fam, we are back again with another video. Listen up, we got Ben Shapiro here talking about how feminism ruined marriages. Sounds like a very interesting topic to get into. I agree with Ben Shapiro on a few things, many things I don't. However, one thing I admire about this man, the way his mind works, it's crazy. Like he's literally one of the fastest talkers that I've ever seen. That's making sense with his, arguments for whatever, it might be, whatever topic he might be speaking on. So let's see what he's got to say about this topic, how feminism ruined marriage. Let's get into it.
Is the due process requires such and such to happen. Now, the real answer in the end to a lot of what's happening, and here's the really unpopular part with the left. The left destroyed traditional mores with regard to relations between the sexes, destroyed them wholesale. So the original idea was that men were supposed to act with honor and chivalry in protecting women, and women were supposed to look for example, relationships just as men were. Sexual activity was supposed to be confined, this was at least the ideal, was supposed to be confined to committed relationships, particularly marriage. Not everybody lived up to that, but a huge number of people did. In fact, once people got pregnant, people basically got married. There's studies from the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s shows an awful lot of 7-month marriage babies, right? People who are sleeping together, getting pregnant, and then the couple gets married. When you don't teach men to protect women, you get men who will victimize women. And when you don't teach women that they ought to cherish men who are responsible and good, all you end up doing is incentivizing bad male behavior.
Ooh, okay. He's starting off with some facts there. So one thing, I'll just start with his first point. His first point was, marriage was, there was strong value when it came to marriage. And I think everybody could agree that, that's kind of being lost, maybe slowly but surely. One could argue that. One could say that it's almost completely lost. Like, what he's saying is back then, if there was a baby on the way, you knew that it would be a strength to be together and married. For whatever reasons that might be, I think that, I think that is really interesting. Like that, things are not incentivized as much as before. And I guess I don't really have the answer to it, but one question that I would ask is, what started that downward progression of like the value that was placed in marriage? I wonder about that, because he brings up a point that kind of alludes to it, where he says that, the male figure, chivalry was a real thing. Like they're looking to protect, and that the woman was also looking for a relationship more actively. I guess what he's saying is, those roles are kind of switched in a way. I shouldn't say switched, because chivalry is still expected from the man. Women still expect the man to open the door, to pay for the meal, for the most part. And but when you flip that around, a woman expects that, she's going to be approached, pursued, generally. And although, I guess in a way, what I mean is not necessarily that, who comes up to who and who initiates the conversation. I think that's still the man. And then back then it still was the man, but more so putting yourself in a situation to find the best man. Women now are more focused on, living in a way that benefits them, so that might look like having relations with a lot of men. That might look like, traveling. That might look like focusing fully on your career and not dedicating time to being in the right places to find the right men, wherever that might be for you. For example, if you're a person with Christian values, you would expect it to find your spouse or your future spouse, potential spouse, in the church. That's dwindling for many different reasons. So he starts off with a good point there. And I think that as he expounds, we'll probably get more answers regarding like how he thinks the downward trajectory started, and also how feminism plays into it. So let's see.
The feminist movement was not wrong when they said men are acting like pigs. They were wrong when they said women also ought to act like pigs and that this is a solution to our problem. Because now what's happened is they got rid of all the traditional mores about how sex ought to be connected with love and ought to be connected with relationships. They got rid of all of that. It was just a bodily function now. Except when it comes to actual sexual assault, we treat that differently than any other bodily function, obviously. But that's the problem, right? So they create this standard where sex is basically a throwaway item, sort of like eating. And then we treat sex very differently when it comes to what we all know it is, which is a deeply important and intimate part of a person's life. And then we attempt to backdoor standards of consent that, frankly, don't make any sense in a real life context. So you get college campuses in California saying that what you need is a yes means yes standard, where you have like a legal checklist, I guess, where every time you do anything in the bedroom, you're supposed to ask, am I allowed to touch your hand? Am I allowed to touch your shoulder? Am I allowed to touch your hair?
So he's going into pretty much like going back into that story that they first started with, which was talking about, this was what I watched, and then I got into, once I saw the meat was coming up, I paused it to start the video. But it was talking about pretty much like this allegation against a professor, and he was arguing, and the person who asked the question was arguing that that person shouldn't have received the backlash, whatever negative aspects of their, I guess, punishment without actually being found guilty. So that's what he's alluding to there. But however, he said something very interesting, which was that instead of, well, let me say this. He starts with the fact that men did change. That is something that I don't see talked about enough. I'm going to be honest there. Like, there was something that shifted in men around those stages, those probably 70s, 80s. And there was more of a push from building a family, or starting a family, first of all, the correct way, and maintaining the family, creating your own little empire per se, and that being, making it your business to do that. That was lost, and it was substituted with going out and enjoying yourself, all be it, it could be sexually, it could be, or I should say just physically, and financially, you're more, you're worried about, yourself instead of building your family or using your money to start that family and create legacy for yourself. That was lost. And what he says is feminism, in response to that, instead of saying, hey, men of the world, like, or pretty much of the Western society, not of the world, but of the Western society, we want y'all to get back to what created families. And we want y'all to understand that we haven't left our role in looking for good men. And instead what happened was the women, or the feminists, I should say, they focused on doing what the men were doing. So the men had their issues. The women said, okay, to empower ourselves, we're going to follow the same flaws in the name of liberation. And I think that's a powerful statement, because that does kind of help answer my question that I'm, kind of grasping from that, like what happened exactly, because feminism, it wasn't a problem in my opinion. It started off, it was just like, okay, we need, women need equal rights, fine. Women need to own property, be able to own property, fine. When did it get to women need to they don't need a man at all. Like, when did it get to that point? That's always been a question for me. So, and y'all know, always listen, if you have any comments, feel free to comment. Make sure you like this video at this point too. That will help us grow the channel as well. But we're going to continue on. Let's go.
Has never ever resulted in actual fulfillment of a sexual encounter, right? I mean, it's sort of like, it's like Zeno's paradox. If you have a yes means yes standard, the closer you get, the further away you are. And and again, sex is, this is where women really gave up on marriage a lot too soon. Okay, marriage was the best thing ever for women. It is an amazing thing for men too, because it civilizes them, it cultures them, it teaches them to be protectors of their family and to take care of people and to think beyond themselves and to think beyond their generation. Women gave up in marriage a way to teach men to do those things. And also, women gave up the idea that a commitment was going to come along with this intimacy. And let's be real about this. I mean, every scientific study ever done has shown that women actually do have better sex in the context of committed relationships. All of the crap that you see in Cosmo magazine about sleeping with 100 guys and being sexually happy is just garbage. It is just sheer unadulterated.
Whoo, big statement there. Big statement there. Yeah. And it's funny because, like, you have to get tired at some point of that lifestyle. And the reason why I say that isn't just from my opinion. I'm sure that, everybody here has either encountered someone or heard of someone who's said, I'm ready to settle down, male or female. I'm ready to settle down. I'm ready to start a family. I'm ready, or just to settle down and have a relationship with one person. A lot of people get burnt out with that lifestyle, and that's because it's not a natural instinct for us. The natural instinct is to build or to have something being built with someone and creating legacy. That's for men. And caring, nurturing for those around you, the loved ones that you have, is for women. And I think that like, in those days, I should say, we paint those days out to be as traditional, which has gotten a very negative connotation attached to it. And I've never really understood that, and it's infiltrated to the Christian church. It's infiltrated into just Western society on a whole, which used to push those values. What do I mean by that? Look at the advertisements that we see. As he said, you look in Cosmopolitan magazine and they're pushing, ain't nothing wrong with, going out and doing whatever with your body, and it ain't gonna stop you from settling down later on. And it's a total lie. It's a total lie. And this is a complete opposite of, back in those days where a woman was raised to be a wife, a man was raised to be a husband. And when a man meets a spouse who was raised to be a wife, and that man was raised to be a husband, that created legacy, that created an empire, that created good, sustainable families, which is being lost.